The courtroom was silent except for the sound of a gavel striking against wood. A 10-year-old black boy sat beside his trembling mother, her eyes filled with fear and shame. The judge leaned forward, his smirk cold and deliberate. "Maybe if your mother taught you better," he muttered, mocking the child in front of a packed courtroom. Laughter echoed. The boy didn't cry. He just stared, quietly memorizing every word, every smirk. Years later, that same boy would walk back into a courtroom. But this time, he wasn't sitting beside the accused. He was standing behind the bench wearing the robe. And what he did next would shock the same system that once tried to humiliate him. Watch until the end. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Tyrese Johnson was just 10 when his world began to crumble. His mother, Denise, a hard-working single parent, had been accused of a crime she didn't commit, stealing from the store where she cleaned floors after hours. The store's cameras were conveniently broken, and the owner, a man with deep connections and racial bias, made sure her word meant nothing. Tyrese watched helplessly as police dragged her away in handcuffs, her name whispered across town like a warning. In court, the judge didn't even pretend to care. Denise's public defender barely looked at her, and the jury's eyes told a story Tyrese couldn't yet understand, but he could feel it. The humiliation, the injustice, the way they treated his mother like she didn't belong. That day, Tyrese made a silent promise. He would never forget that courtroom. He would learn the law not to protect himself, but to protect those who had no voice. What he didn't know was how painful and powerful that journey would be. Years passed, but the memory never left him. Every insult, every smirk from that judge replayed in Tyrese's mind like a film he couldn't pause. Denise was sentenced to 5 years in prison despite her innocence. She served her time quietly, her spirit nearly broken. But her son, he was different. That humiliation became fuel. Tyrese devoured every book he could find. Law, justice, history, he studied until his vision blurred. His teachers saw a spark, something extraordinary, but Tyrese wasn't chasing grades. He was chasing redemption. He worked through high school, earned scholarships, and fought through law school, often being the only black student in the room. Whispers followed him everywhere. Quota, token, lucky. He ignored them all. By 28, Tyrese had become one of the youngest defense attorneys in his state. His reputation for dismantling corrupt prosecutions grew fast, and so did the fear among those who once thought people like him would never rise. Then came the file that stopped him in his tracks. It was a case eerily familiar to his mother's, a black woman accused of theft, flimsy evidence, same courthouse. But when Tyrese flipped through the documents, his chest tightened. The presiding judge's name was the same one from his childhood. The man who once mocked his mother and humiliated a 10-year-old boy was still on the bench, still deciding fates. Tyrese knew this wasn't just another case. It was destiny calling him back to the same room that once broke him. He prepared meticulously, every argument sharpened like a blade. This wasn't revenge, it was justice long delayed. Still, when the trial began, the weight of the past pressed down like a storm. The courtroom hadn't changed much. Same creaky benches, same flag, even the same faint smell of polish and fear. But Tyrese was different now. He stood tall, calm, wearing the confidence that comes from truth. The judge glanced at him, squinting as if trying to recall a face from long ago. And then, recognition